The German army not only used anti-tank bullets and grenades to combat tanks, but also experimented with explosions planted in the ground. At first, anti-tank mines were little more than buried high-explosive shells, with the fuse pointing upward. Soon after the first appearance of British and French tanks in 1916, the German army introduced the 𝗠𝘂𝘀𝗰 17. The 𝗠𝘂𝘀𝘀, or flat mine, was a mass-produced anti-tank mine during the First World War. It was a simple wooden box containing the main charge with pressure-fused detonators on the top that would trigger the explosion when driven over by a heavy vehicle, such as a tank. Initially, these improvised explosive devices proved too dangerous and time-consuming to be of any great practical use. However, the growing threat of Allied tanks forced German commanders to rethink that. The German army continued to improve the anti-tank mine by increasing the size of the wooden boxes and the explosive charges inside. Furthermore, it improved the location of the mines. At first, they were laid in predictable places, such as on roads leading to important positions and strong points. As the war continued, more systematic placements were developed. Large numbers were buried forward of the first row of barbed wire, with 2 meters separating each mine from another. Additional mines were also placed further back in the battle zone, in combination with other obstacles. This way, the Germans created huge minefields that could contain thousands of mines and stretch for miles. They were far from perfect, however. Since pressure was necessary for them to explode, early anti-tank mines did most of the damage to the tank's treads, leaving the crew unharmed and its guns still operational, but immobilized and vulnerable to the enemy. Moreover, the mines only worked on firm ground. On soft ground, they were often pushed into it without triggering the explosion. On top of that, German soldiers reported that artillery fire displaced the mines, and so they had to be often carefully repositioned again. Despite all the problems, mines were very effective against tanks during the final Allied offensive of the First World War, where 15% of all destroyed American tanks were due to anti-tank mines. More than 3 million of them were produced throughout the war. Germany saw its usefulness and continued to improve the anti-tank mine with the 𝗠𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗃 that was used extensively during the Second World War.